One of my viewers, he goes by the term vet picking. He sent me a comment. He said, "You dumbass, why don't you just make some mats that you can keep around and keep under the hoe? Save yourself a lot of grief." Well, he didn't really say it like that, but he should have, because that's what I feel like. After fighting with using little trees as crane mats for my mini hoe, I've been planning on doing something better. I've got these 6x6s. Some of them are long. These are the ones I used on the porch at the mini house that were in the demo house. And a friend of mine wants some of the long ones, but I see 5 short ones. I'm gonna try to bolt them together and make I'm gonna try to make 2 mats, one with 3 and one with 2. If it turns out he didn't want these long ones, I'm gonna cut them and make more mats, because they're just sitting here waiting for the termites to get into them. They're pine, they're not cypress. So I made my first little mat. I don't have the rope tied on it yet, and it fought me every inch of the way. So making a second one, maybe I'll have my act better in order. What I did the first time was I drilled this hole all the way through. It was too small. Then to enlarge it, the bit kept getting stuck, and with this 1/2-inch drill, trigger sticks, because it's my wife's drill and she's got plaster all over the dang thing. About killed myself 3 times. But now I have the right bit. It goes all the way through, really without much problem. So I drilled 3 holes, 2 for bolts, and 1 to put a rope in later. Rope will be nice for dragging these things around. I'll be able to hook all of them up to the tractor and drag them down the road or whatever. Just, you gotta have a rope. You gotta have a rope on a mat, or some way to hook something to it. No tape measures, framing squares, pencils, or any of that sort of thing was used in the production of these crane mats. Wasn't necessary. Actually, the only time I used the tape was to measure the rods that I put through here and welded, and somehow or another I got those wrong. So I just drilled a hole roughly 1.5 feet from each end for the bolts, and a little closer for the rope, and drilled. And this auger bit, ship auger bit, did super well. And I decided to make them all in pairs, two 6x6s side by side. I can kind of barely pick that up. If I do 3 side by side, I won't be able to pick them up. They'll be a bear to load, and it'll put a lot more stress on the bolts, and I don't know how strong the bolts are with my Yankee welds. So made them all in pairs, and I ended up with 1 extra, and I did cut some of the long ones. You can tell by the sparks coming off of this steel that this is really high strength, high carbon steel. I don't know how to explain it, but a spark leaves the steel and then it fragments, and then those fragments fragment again, and then it happens again. And the more it does that is the indication of really hard steel. If it was just plain old mild steel, I'd get a lot of straight sparks and not quite as much fragmentation of the sparks themselves. This is some old coil rod. It was a concrete form accessory, and yeah, pretty robust stuff. That's all I want. So got the rods cut the length ahead of time, and I got, don't look at my weld, I got a washer welded on the end, and I got a doubler. So I'm gonna slide this in from the bottom and clamp it tight with the 2 long clamps and weld it tight. So my 2 clamps are on the head of the bolt and they're pushing the washers down. So I'm squeezing the boards together and I'm squeezing the washers kind of snug. I don't have to get it super tight because once this gets wet and the wood swells up, it's going to get really tight. But since the clamps are on the head of the bolt, it gives me a convenient place to get my ground. I'm going to do a little welding, and it's been struggling with this. I don't know why. I haven't welded mild steel with this machine yet, and I'm learning slowly. So I've got my last 6 rods cut to length. This would have been real easy if I could have found nuts for these things, but this is a Dewey Dag rod, and nobody in town has these nuts. Well, I've looked in the past, nobody keeps them. It's like old school concrete form stuff. So I started out with some 7014 rods that I had at the foundry, and I couldn't do anything with them. And then I tried my stainless rods, couldn't do anything with them. I went to Home Depot and bought some, these are 6011s. They're supposed to be super easy rods to weld. They're supposed to be real okay with rusty metal and all that stuff. But man, I'm having a hard time. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But anyway, I'll film it and then I'll edit it. A little issue here, the bolts that I pre-made are too short, at least for this beam. This beam may be just a little bigger. So I had to countersink the hole, and countersinking a hole is tricky when there's no center to guide, whether you use a hole saw or whatever kind of saw you use, drill. So I drilled a hole in a piece of plywood on a drill press, and that keeps the this big ugly manky drill bit going in the right direction. The drill doesn't turn off because there's so much crap in the trigger. It's kind of dangerous. That's enough. These 2 6x6s were thicker than all the rest of them, which means the countersunk hole had to be deeper than the rest of them, which meant I couldn't get my clamps on the washer. So I had to do a little carving here, just trying to make a spot to get my clamp in there so I can pull down tight on the washer. Here comes the part that doesn't go so good. Welding.
If somebody can tell me what I'm doing wrong, I'll be glad to listen. I just couldn't keep an arc going until the rod got really hot, and then it would go. These are new rods, but they are from Home Depot, so I don't know. I'm just a little frustrated here.
So I've got 4 pairs and a single. They all have ropes on them. I'll put ropes on them. I don't know how long the ropes will last, because they may get tangled up in the Traco tracks and get torn, but otherwise it makes it so I can drag them without having to pick them up. I can hook them onto the bumper hitch of my truck and drag like all of them at the same time. You can drag all of them with the Traco or all of them with the tractor. So the ropes will come in handy if they don't get ripped off. The rope itself is plenty strong enough, but it's going to be kind of, in a bad place down there under the tracks with the machine slipping and sliding. Anyway, I'm gonna cut one more long one in half as soon as 7:30 rolls around, so I can start my chainsaw. Got a lot of rules in the city. I don't have any rules in Osaka. So I'm gonna cut this last one in half and make one more pair, and I think this is gonna make the difference between digging out for that little pond next to the road or not digging out the little pond next to the road. I think this is gonna be huge. So I'm back in the country. It's been 5 days, maybe. It's been a little while. And yesterday we had a ton of rain, probably 2 inches, so the surface is all slimed up. But I can kind of see where the water wants to go, so that's a good thing. And I don't think it will affect the ability of the material to hold up the Traco, because that takes years and months of water to go that deep into the ground. So get the Traco over here. I'm gonna dig this back, clean it up, and throw it into the grass. Make it kind of look like this. And I've got a special treat in my truck, which is gonna let me, I hope, dig out the pond over there in that spot I said I could not get to. Look at what we got. We got some little timbers bolted together like a real little bitty crane mat. And I'm gonna use them to try to get over there and dig a pond.
I'm pretty stoked about my little mats. They're square in section, or rectangular in section, so they're going to do better at loading. It's less likely the mud will ooze out around it because it's not round. They're big enough that I can grab them with the thumb of the Traco, which sometimes has trouble grabbing little bitty things. And of course with the rope I can pull them if I can get to the rope. Yeah, I think even the single one, the one I didn't have a pair for, it's going to be a help. It's going to be much better than just having a log, because it's got the flat bottom and it's a substantial chunk of wood too. So let's get these over here and see what they're going to do. Yeah, I was trying to track down the hill with the mat and pull myself while holding the mat, but didn't really work. So I ended up just chunking all the mats on the other side of the soft spot, pulling myself across, and then turning around and grabbing them, moving them ahead.
Well, my luck's run out. I can't get through this wet spot. I think I'll stack all the boards over here and then pull myself through with the bucket and get on the other side and grab.
I got myself in a little pickle here. I put all the mats to cross the water, but I shouldn't have, because where there's water, I had already dug out 1.5 foot or 2 foot of the original soft soil, and it was down to a little bit of a harder type soil. that gray stuff. So it was pretty firm. I could have spread them out a lot more and had a mat where once I got on top of the mats, I still have one I can reach and turn around and grab. So the way I had it, all the mats were under the tracks. It was way stronger than it needed to be, but the approach when I went from this dirt that I just scooped to the mats, it's crap. So once I tracked over it and then moved the machine a couple times, it started going south. So when I was trying to back off the mats, they were all under the tracks. I couldn't reach one to put behind me, and the back of the machine sunk drastically, and it was a mess. I had to get off and manhandle some mats under the tracks and all that stuff, and none of that's on video. But yeah, it was a mess. And water in both of my boots, that's how deep the mud was. So
Well,
I'm learning about
we
this.
can do. That's what I'm talking about. Kind of didn't stay put, but I'm going to be able to dig a lot more than I could dig before. So I'm going to start digging up this material and throwing it behind me. Maybe on a drier day I can get further up in there. Pretty deep and it's pretty soft. So I dug my radius. I'm about 1.5 buckets deep, and then I backed up a little bit and I dug another radius. I'm running out of room to put all this crap. It's just slime. I need to back up some more, and my tracks in the back are kind of sinking because they're not on the mat, so I may pull all the way out and reshuffle my mats and pull in again. That didn't go too well. When I backed out, the mats were all in front of me. Nothing was behind me. I sunk like a rock. Yeah, that was tough. I had to manhandle the mats by hand to get them under the tracks and some trees. And I'm out, and I know where 5 of the mats are, but one of them is in there somewhere. So I'm gonna sit right where I am. I'm gonna move all this mud this way, and I'm gonna remat, kind of going that way a little bit, and try it again. I was a little bit further, 3 feet. I was real easy and dug. I didn't really dig, I just kind of pulled to me because I'm pretty anxious right now because I just got myself unstuck. And then I backed up 2 feet. 2 feet is huge. I feel more stable. I'm on 3 of my 5 mats. 2 of them are behind me. I'm out of that slop a little bit. Not sure what to do with all this stuff. Okay, I'm turning you off for a little while.
So I've kind of gotten under control better here. I've got my mats spread out with about a 2-foot gap, 1.5 gap between them all, so I can be on some of them, and some of them can be either in front or behind where I can reach them. So I'm continuing to remove muck. It is very liquidy, and I know that every time I pull a bucket, a lot of it runs around the sides of the bucket. So it's don't know exactly what it's going to look like when I leave and it dries up and clears up. But I'm removing a lot of material. A lot of buckets of slop are coming out of here.
Mucky, 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 muck. I'm in slow motion here. I'm trying not to move the machine. Everything's so slimy. So this line is the limit of the pond that I want to make. I just want to go that way more where all that grass is. So I think I'm going to back up, grab my mats, try to find them, move this muck, try to get right here where I can dig back a little further. Yeah, that's what we're gonna try. I need to go further. I got a mat behind me I can grab. Oh, okay, I'm gonna back up and spread my mats out a little further because I want to go further frontwards.
So I backed all the way out, got back on the hard ground. I was safe. I got back on base. And I moved all my mats over to the left about 10 feet or so, 8 feet. And I went back in, and I'm trying to get another section. So after I dug in the second section and backed out, moved my mats to the third section, and somewhere along the line in the second section, I lost a mat. I can't find it. I turned the soil all upside down. It's just gone. It's down there somewhere. But after I dug the third section out, I'm picking up my mats and putting them on top of the hill. And I came in one more time with the mats to get a little bit more off the, I guess this would be the north end of the pond. I'm not really sure which direction that is. One more section, and I'm getting into a little bit better material. It's grassier, and it's not just liquid, totally liquid. I wouldn't want to walk on it, but it's not totally liquid. This is our little pond. Doesn't look like much. It doesn't look nearly as deep as I thought I dug it. But there is a line now. We have water, we have soil. Water, soil. We never had that before. We just had, I don't know what you call it, but it just went from soft soil to softer soil to parfait to whipped cream to muck. There never really was a lot of water here. It was just muck. So I'm hoping when this soil, this muck dries out in a month or two, it will eventually dry out, then I can just get on here without a lot of grief and finish digging it out, maybe dig it a little bigger. So, all right, we got a pond. It was a battle, but the battle's over, and I'm not gonna mess with this stuff until it's dry enough to walk on. I am gonna get over here and mess with this stuff, and it is not really dry, but we're gonna make some progress.